The Blackhawks give up 6 unanswered goals and lose to the Kraken 6-2 at the United Center. Greg Boysen's here. We're going to break down the game next on the CHGO Blackhawks postgame show. This is the CHGO Blackhawks postgame show presented by Bet365. Download the Bet365 app and use code CHGO365 when you sign up. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. I'm Jay Zawaski. That's Greg Boysen. Katie's here running the show because Sarah's probably about ready to wake up for her morning shift for the Cubs game. Thanks, everybody, for being here. Hawks lose 6-2 to the Seattle Kraken in a game that started off very encouraging and ended unencouraging. Do us a favor, hit that like button for us. Make sure you are subscribed to our YouTube page as well. And if you're catching up on the podcast, we love and appreciate you. Make sure you're following or subscribed wherever you get your podcasts. Greg, here we are again. Another incomplete effort, another frustrating loss.
Yeah. 14 games to go. That's a good thing.
Yeah.
14 games to go to where hopefully this organization starts to operate like a real NHL team and get some players here, get a real coach, and move on. But yeah, the first period was outstanding.
Yeah.
One of the best periods they've played in a long time. They had energy. I turned to you in the press box and said, man, this Kraken are playing like the Blackhawks. A lot of passes to nobody, a lot of skating themselves out of scoring chances.
Fumbled pucks at the point.
Just it looked like the Blackhawks were playing the Blackhawks.
Yes, it did.
And they know how to play that team because they face them in practice every day. And then all of a sudden the second period came out and it was like, I don't know, all of a sudden the Kraken transformed into the
actual Kraken.
To the late 90s Detroit Red Wings. They were just all over the place, passing the puck at will throughout the zone. Blackhawks had zero defensive structure after the first period. And you could say what you want about Luke Richardson and how boring this team was, and you're not wrong. And I'm going to preface this by saying I'm not saying Luke Richardson should still be the Blackhawks coach, but at least when he was here, there was some structure in the defensive zone. There is zero right now. Zero. And, okay, you change from the 1-2-2 to the 2-1-2. That's supposed to provide more offense. You're not scoring any goals either.
Yeah, that hasn't been the case.
All the forwards, if you watch that second period, I don't think an offensive forward in the defensive zone went below the dots once. They're all trying to cheat the zone and get out of the zone before their defenseman have the puck, or the defenseman gets the puck and there's no one to pass to because they're all heading up ice. That is not team defense. That is not team hockey. That's bad hockey.
Well, yeah, and even in the rare case it does work where they do retrieve the puck and they do get it up the ice, there's not enough skill on this team yet to make 3-4 passes to get a rush going. And I don't know how many games it's going to take for the Blackhawks to get this message. You are not the 80s Oilers. You can't just pass it around and pass around. I'm watching this team's down 4 goals with 4 minutes left, and guys are breaking down the wing and peeling off, waiting for the trailer. What are you doing? Start throwing the puck on net a little bit. And you're right about the system. It was supposed to be this answer to get more offense. And we said when the change was made, you know what? I'd rather have the Hawks lose 5-4 than 2-1. But now they're losing 6-2, 5-2, 6-3. The offense is not, yes, the defense has gotten worse, which we all knew would happen because of the system, and you have a much younger defensive core right now.
10 guys under 23,
yes.
4 very inexperienced when Alex Vlasic is your third most experienced defender at 100 games, you've got so you're going to have these growing pains, and that's fine. I'd rather have this team be bad and get embarrassed on home ice with Artie Levshunov getting some important minutes.
100%.
With Wyatt Kaiser playing instead of Seth Jones and TJ Brody. I'd rather have defensive zone lapses with Landon Slaggert and Colton Dock out there than Philip Kurashev or, Andreas Athanasiou. Like, these are guys that could actually learn from these mistakes. Hopefully they do. They better. And get better. These aren't veterans just repeating the same old mistake and then waiting to get their game check.
Sometimes I wish with Sorensen, and, I think it is a little bit hackish to just now it's a coaching issue, but there are some very specific things I would like to see. We've talked about this. I know you tweeted about it too last game. Can you show, get pissed on behalf of your players? When you've got, this was 2 games ago, Connor Bedard getting a misconduct for lipping off to the ref. 31 of 32 NHL coaches should be on top of that bench, grabbing somebody's stick, banging on the boards. Tonight, things start to fall apart. Call timeout. Settle things down. Reiterate to the team, hey, it's 3-2. We got more than half the game to go here. Let's figure it out. Let's settle down. Let's get back to what we were doing. You have a team that appears to have scored a goal. You've got your captain, Nick Foligno, emphatically saying, we just scored. We scored. Goes to the bench, no challenge. There's things like that where if you're a player on the team and that's the way your coach is acting, you're like, why is he not fighting for us at all?
Right.
At all. And I know he's a reserve guy. I know he's a quiet guy. I know he's an interim guy, but if you want your leadership group to go to bat for you when it's time to decide whether or not you are the coach or not, you've got to stick up for these guys. Even if you're wrong, it goes a long way to have your players understand and feel that you are on their side and pulling for them, and I don't get that vibe from Sorensen. And the other thing, too, the other day, I can't remember which game it was, Levshunov has a pretty solid game, gets his first NHL assist, and he was all right.
He was okay.
And yes, of course, right. A 19-year-old is going to have moments where things are not going to go perfectly, but lift the kid up. Hey, you know what? For a 19-year-old getting his first NHL point, that's great. He led the team in ice time. We trust him. He's doing well. There's some things will work out, but he'll be fine. That's the way you need to talk about your team.
Yeah, and I think a lot of this has to do with the fact that Anders is a developmental guy. His job is at the AHL level. He's a practice guy. He's a drill, developmental kind of guy. He's not an in-game guy.
Right.
And he's proven that during his time in Rockford too, where the results aren't, you look at some of these teams with some of the roster, even this year when he had Nazar and Levshunov and Doc, a lot of these guys and Slaggert, when he had them all down there, they still weren't winning games.
They should be steamrolling people with that roster.
And they still weren't winning games. Yeah. He was getting them ready for the NHL, which is his number one job down there.
And that's most important.
But when it comes to being an in-game guy, I don't, that's, at least at this point in his career, that's not his thing. He's more of an assistant, an AHL developmental guy, does a good job of getting guys ready to play here, but not an not an in-game guy, a 60, minute behind the bench guy. He's proven that. We saw it in that Vancouver game where somebody on Vancouver got a penalty. It wasn't a good one. Was it the Bluger play where somebody got tripped by his own I don't remember what it was. But Tocchet was screaming at the ref, and the Blackhawks went on the power play. 6 seconds into the power play,
yes,
the makeup call was made. One of the Bedard penalties.
Yes.
So that's how you do it.
Myers took a penalty at 4:23 of the third period. 4:29, the Hawks got a penalty call.
His teammate tripped over Myers, or I don't remember. Who cares?
Right. It doesn't matter.
Tocchet was screaming at the ref. 6 seconds later, the makeup call was made. Sorensen gets 2 of his young guys kicked out for defending them. So and then those Nazar and Bedard misconducts didn't have any bearing on the game at all. But
and those happen all the time.
But he's just standing there sipping on his water. Just show that you care. If I'm gonna get mad that a guy's like Tyler Bertuzzi when it shows that sometimes that he doesn't care, I'm going to do this. I want the same out of the coach. If the coach doesn't care, why should the player?
Well, and I'm
not saying, and I know Anders cares.
He does care. Yes, he does.
Sometimes you need to have a public display. Sometimes you just need to grab your nuts like a la Joel Quenneville, just to show you care.
Yes,
and show the fans you care.
You're right, and it's not what we're saying though. Isn't just throw a bench, throw a stick, freak out. Do something out of character for the show of it. But again, those things I talked about earlier where the team is floundering, you got a young team, call timeout, settle things down, challenge the goal, those sort of things. Aside from even like when Bedard gets the misconduct for yapping at the ref. Call the ref over and say, please explain to me what just happened. We're down a goal with 10 minutes, with 10:40 to go, and you just took our best player off the ice for basically the rest of the game.
Right.
Explain to me exactly what happened and why that's justified. Give him one of these. Come over here. Coaches do it all the time. Come and explain it. Instead, all right, well, you got to figure it out. Okay.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, man, everyone has worked in a job where they've questioned the leadership, where the leadership has felt soft. And you're like, can you fight for like, I know, look, you can't get us all raises. You can't do this and that, but like, can you at least put up a fight for us when it's time for XYZ coming down from the top? And I'm not talking about here. I know it sounds like I am, but everyone's had those bosses where you're like, dude, come on, man, stand up for the guys that do the work here every day. And the players feel that too. They do. I'm sorry. And it might not even be, conscious, but that resignation of, all right, things are going bad. You look over your shoulder at the guy who's tasked to do something about it, even if it's on an interim basis, and he's not doing anything. And it's got to be kind of a hopeless and helpless feeling.
Yeah, it's got to be deflated. Now, as far as going back to tonight with that goal review, I don't have an issue with the not reviewing that because Foligno was doing this, but the ref was literally right there on top of the cage looking down.
Yeah.
And then when they did show the replay, there was no view that you could even see the puck.
Well, I saw one from behind, but it didn't show the whistle.
Right.
And you saw one of the Kraken players take his glove and throw it out. But I don't know had the whistle gone or not.
Well, it's not even the intent to blow. The intent to blow. Yeah,
that's the Hawks' new slogan.
Yeah, intent to blow. Oh, they definitely intend to. So I don't necessarily have an issue with that because there were no clear replays. The overhead was completely blocked, and then even the other one that you couldn't see. And like if the ref was like not anywhere near the net, then I could say, oh, Foligno was probably right. But the ref was literally standing on the back of the net looking down and didn't call it. So I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. I'm not upset with that, but your point, maybe that's the time you do waste but then here's the thing though. Like you have this coaching change, you have a different coach. It's the same freaking problems. Bertuzzi scores. Less than a minute later, they give up a goal. That was happening under Luke Richardson.
Oh, yeah.
And then that play happens, and what happens?
They score
the Kraken
next
scored
shift.
Twice
24 seconds
26
apart.
seconds or whatever it was.
Yep.
Right after that. They did it again later in the period where they scored back-to-back shifts or 2 out of 3 shifts. That's a problem that's been happening all season long. So when the coaching change was made, it was like, sure, this might be a little more on the fun bad side, but it's still going to be bad because it's not a well-constructed roster. And at least now you have the quote-unquote excuse of all these young guys playing, which is better than watching a team full of veterans play like this.
Yeah, we got to hit the break zone. We're going to hear from Mario in about 15, 20 minutes. We've got some super chats, and we also want to hear from Jason Dickinson, who spoke after the game. We're going to get to that next on the CHGO Blackhawks podcast. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. New customers can now get $150 in bonus bets when you bet 5, win or lose. Sign up, use the code CHGO365, deposit $10 and place a bet for $5 to get $150 in bonus bets if your bet wins or loses. How about their NHL early payout offer? With Bet365 early payouts, you're a winner if your team gains a 3-goal lead with an instant payout on straight bets and parlay selections marked as winners.
You don't have to bet on the Blackhawks. You can bet on the 31 other teams that might actually have
bet on the opponent. Download the app and use code CHGO365 when you sign up. It's great. We love it. We're so glad to have them here. Again, new customers can get $150 in bonus bets when you bet $5, win or lose. Sign up, use the code CHGO365, deposit $10 and place a bet for $5 to get $150 in bonus bets if your bet wins or loses. Bonus bets can be used on the spread, totals, player props, futures, and more. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary with Bet365. Must be 21 plus. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem, crisis counseling and referral services can be accessed by calling 1-800-GAMBLER. And if you've not heard the big news, light beer just got better. Introducing Sam Adams American Light. It's clean, crisp, and super easy to drink. It's no gimmicks. It's no fluff. It's just amazing beer. And Sam Adams American Light is not your average light beer. It's brewed with 100% American source ingredients from local independent farmers. That is light beer that's made right. If you've been drinking Sam Adams, you know they do beer right. And now with Sam Adams American Light, light beer is perfect. An American classic so smooth, you want to crack open another one and another one. It's always Sam's season. Light beer just got better. Grab some Sam Adams American Light. Available now at select Chicago retailers. Must be 21. Please drink responsibly. And thanks for being with us here on the CHGO Blackhawks show, powered by Bet365. Let's get to some super chats here before we hear from Jason Dickinson. We've got two $2 super chats from Windy City Hockey. He says Sorensen does know he has a timeout, right? Yeah, we were talking about that earlier, and says Sorensen has no emotions like Colleton. And again, I don't need Mike Ditka there tearing a deck of cards in half and throwing gum and flipping off the ref. I just want someone that is actively engaged in the game all the time.
A time and a place for those types of things.
Correct.
And yes, it would be nice to see something every once in a while. But right, I don't want this to be like, hey, we have to go out and pay John Tortorella $12 million a year to come here.
Overcorrection.
No.
Yes.
Right. Just a little bit of something. And you never really ever saw that from Luke Richardson either.
No.
But that's why getting a coach here that has done it for a long time, has had success at this level, has the respect of the referees.
Important.
It's a huge thing.
Yes.
Because those guys are first-timers with Richardson, with Sorensen, with Colleton, with King. You know, no ref is going to be like, okay, whatever.
Right.
Like, but if it's Mike Sullivan screaming at you, it's the guy that's coached Sidney Crosby to multiple Stanley Cups. You're going to listen to that guy.
I would hope so. Anthony Mendoza says, knew this game was lost once we got up 2. Wish we could hit the simulate rest of the season button. Yeah, but then the off season's here even longer. We're like, all right, it's July. What's your favorite color? Top 10 colors.
I'd rather talk about that right now than another 6-2 loss.
Well, let's stop talking and let's hear from Jason Dickinson, who spoke after today's game. Mario advised us to play it ASAP, so that's what we're going to do. Here's Jason Dickinson, courtesy of Mario's iPhone.
Sure, yeah. A few too many turnovers, soft on pucks, which is kind of tied into turnovers, and then we didn't protect the slot at all. They scored their first goal, D coming down the middle, slot shot. They scored their second goal, winger pop, slot shot. They score their third goal, and 2 more backdoor. Like, there was just too many high danger scoring chances. You can't give up that many and expect our goalie to make every save.
Yeah, what were they doing that they were getting so many one-timer chances like that?
Their timing was really good. They're hitting the spots with good timing and rolling out of it. So even when they didn't connect on it, they had movement that created extra zone time that created more opportunity off of it. And the ones that they did time well, they were slipping in behind our coverage. And quite frankly, that's on us. Our coverage is too weak to cover that tonight. I don't think it's a regular occurrence. I don't want to say that that's a common thing because I don't notice too many inner slot shots like that. But tonight it seems that was all they were getting.
Was that just sorting issues that was happening because of that?
Yeah, absolutely. That would be part of it. There's a read that has to be made among the forwards on whose responsibility is whose once the puck starts to rotate. And yeah, I guess we just weren't reading it well together.
How have you felt your first 4 games or so back?
Yeah, okay. Not contributing, and it's driving me nuts. I expect a lot more of myself, and it's increasingly frustrating. Feeling okay physically and good enough to go that I should be contributing a lot more than I have been.
As far as the team goes, what breaks a slump like this? How do you get out of it?
A gritty one. We are not a high-skilled team. We are not a team that can play with a shootout mentality. We're not going to take it to 8-6, 8-7. Those are not games that we want to play. We got to get into a gritty match where we're blocking every shot, we're getting into bodies, we're forechecking, and we're turning pucks over and making it miserable. It's not going to be fun to win hockey games that way, but I was going to swear, sorry, but winning hockey games is a hell of a lot more fun than this, so I don't care how we have to do it. I just want to win.
Did you get some encouragement, at least from the power play, which hadn't produced much, but you got something today?
Doesn't matter. I mean, it's great for them that they got a goal, but we lose a game 6-2. What does it matter if we score on the power play? If we score shorthanded, it doesn't matter to me. I don't care. It's good. Let's get our cookies on the power play. Let's go win a freaking game.
That's good stuff from Jason Dickinson, no doubt about it. And yeah, I mean, frustrated. It's understandable, and I don't know. It's just the same stuff, game after game after game. And look, some of it is you've got a very young team right now, and you kind of live with it. But he talked about we have to play a game where we're willing to pay the price, where we're willing to forecheck, willing to block shots. That was the first period. And that's what is enraging about this team, is because we've gotten those glimpses. Even this is a perfect example of a great 20 minutes. Somewhere in there, they find a great 20 minutes, and the rest is ass. And that was the case today. They gave a good 15 minutes. The last 45, ass. Why can't it be 60 minutes of not ass?
I'd settle for 40 minutes of non-ass hockey.
Yes, it's in there.
Nobody play the 60-minute stuff. I get it, but nobody plays 60.
Sure,
minutes.
right,
but yes,
it's like two different teams tonight.
Yes, it was, and it was kind of and we've seen that 68 times this year, where it's like either the first period is hot garbage, and then the second period they look like a house on fire. But tonight it was the first period that was just, they came out skating. Connor Bedard was aggressive. They had multiple shifts in the zone. That the second line, the Mikheyev Teravainen line early in the game had that shift where they looked like the Kraken eventually looked like, where they were just passing the puck at will, making shots happen. Mikheyev hit the crossbar on that shift. And then it was nowhere to be found in the second period. Nowhere to be found. They didn't have the puck for it was the scene from Spaceballs, the final 40 minutes, where he's holding Dark Helmets by the helmet and he's just swinging his lightsaber and not hitting. That's what the Kraken did for 40 minutes after the Blackhawks dominated. But that Adam Larson goal, you know what the problem is, though? Like, I blame Pat Maroon. If he had fought at the beginning of the second period,
he's got to fight every period.
Maybe that doesn't happen. He's so selfish.
He is.
He should have fought in the opening fight. Picking on noted goon Blackhawks legend John Hayden.
Good old number 40.
Yes.
Good times. Good times.
I don't know if you saw my tweet. I looked up John Hayden because, like, who did they trade him for? And it was like one of those hockey circles of life where John Hayden was traded by the Blackhawks to the Devils for John Quinville.
Oh, God.
John Quinville was the Seattle Kraken's expansion draft pick from the Blackhawks.
Oh, Lord.
Now John Hayden's on the Seattle Kraken.
Well,
I love stuff like that.
But going back to the coaching thing, too, like, the Kraken adjusted. They played like ass for 15 minutes, and then Dan Bilesma,
hey, an actual coach,
a proven NHL coach. Is he Scotty Bowman? No, but he's middle or top third of the league, and the team adjusted to what the Blackhawks were throwing at them, and they took it to him, like you said, Dark Helmet style, actually Lone Star style,
right?
For the end of the game. That's what you want to see. I don't know how you have the great 20 minutes that you had to start this game, and that is not just pounded into their head. Like, look, all right, we gave up a late goal, big deal, right? We got them where we want them. They're on the ropes. We're playing physical. We're playing hard. The crowd's into it. Pat Maroon drops the gloves 4 seconds in, and the Hawks are off to the races for that period. It was a different team. And I'm like, damn, this is the best period of hockey they played in maybe the calendar year of 2025. For real. Because they've won some games, but like a lot of those games were like, oh, they really got dominated, but just won.
Right. Spencer Knight had something to do
Yeah,
with
they had an
couple.
amazing first period today. And how do you not just, and it's not just the coaches, the veterans on this team, keep it up. Let's go. And as soon as you start to see that slipping off, when you give up 2 goals in 24 seconds, and there's not a timeout called, maybe it's, all right, hey, on the bench, yelling down the bench. And maybe they're doing this. We don't know if they're doing it or not, but it's not working. Hey, keep forechecking. Let's go. Discipline, stay in your lane, stay in your places, because then the big difference was the Blackhawks defense was the defensive core version of Arvid Soderblom's last start, where it's just sliding all over the place and losing its spot and just no control, no discipline whatsoever.
And no forwards below the dot.
Yeah.
The whole freaking night. You know, Jason Dickinson talking about all those shots coming from the slot. There was no forward there.
Right.
Some of those guys might have been your guys, Jason. Like, nobody was going below the dots. By the way, Dan Bilesma is a Stanley Cup winning head coach.
Yeah.
And made it to the Calder Cup finals each of the last 2 years. Good coach.
I'd hire that guy in a heartbeat.
Right. He just made the mistake of taking the Buffalo Sabres job, and he needed about 6 years to regain his reputation after that. Talk about that whole DNA of the jersey. Oof.
Yeah.
Buffalo is yikes.
Someday they'll be good when they get Alex McGillney and Pat LaFontaine back. That might be what it takes.
Maybe they just need to bring back Lindy. Oh, never mind.
I tried that already.
Whoops. Sorry.
Oh, Lord. I know we got Mario's going to join us in a few minutes here. I see, Katie, you got Sorensen ready to go. Is it, how long is it? Do we have time to play it here? Sorry to throw you on the spot.
It's nearly 4 minutes. It's up to you.
Wow, that's like his longest presser of the year.
Yeah, let's hear what he had to say.
Sure.
I'm curious what his explanation was on the goal. We'll hear from him, hit a break, and then get to Mario. Hit that like button for us in the meantime.
But what happened there in that second period where everything just kind of fell apart?
Yeah, it fell apart there. I think once they got that second one, and then I think disallowed the goal there. I don't know if we kind of got caught off guard there, and then all of a sudden it's 3-2, right? But the biggest thing was turnovers. That's what hurt us. Yeah.
Dickinson was saying it seemed like a lot of the slot was uncovered, just for some reason kind of getting lost in coverage. What do you think was the reason for that?
We didn't get stops enough in the D zone quick enough, so you spend too much time in the D zone chasing it around, right? They rimmed it around the east-west, and all of a sudden it opened up a little bit. Gotta be quicker to close out and kill those plays.
I know you want you guys to play like creativity and some of the younger guys, but are they being too reckless with some of those passes where it's getting turned so quickly and then they're just failing to sort coming off that?
Yeah, it's a fine line, right? Today, last couple of games are definitely hurt, right? So you got to find that balance, right? The difference between making a play and the risk and reward factor, right?
What do you think of Knight's performance? It seemed like he was giving up some angles, even ones that weren't one-timers.
Yeah, I don't think anything is on him here. I think it was the group in front of him. We didn't do a good enough job of helping him out. I mean, a lot of those plays are lateral plays, and yeah.
What do you think of Levshinov? Seemed like he was a little less assertive.
Yeah, I think the whole group, less assertive. That's what kind of hurt us right after turnovers. Turnovers happen. You don't want them to be as magnified as they were today, but then how's your response to those turnovers, right? And we didn't do a good job there at all.
What statement do you want to see this team make in the last 13 games?
Well, we can't keep giving up the chances we've given up the last couple of games here, right? That's the biggest thing. And we've got to try to kind of play the right way for each other too, right? Can't leave your goalie out or can't leave our groups out to hang all the time, right?
Yeah, like I said, morale seems like it's at its lowest point in the season right now. With where you're at in the season, how do you kind of get the positive vibes moving and change that morale level at this point?
Yeah, honestly, I think before the game, we felt like we were in a pretty good spot. And then obviously when things don't go your way, that's starts snowballing, right? And obviously back-to-back tough losses, right, on the scoreboard. And obviously that's, a recipe for low morale, right? But we're going to get back at it here. We got a lot of young guys, and let's bring the energy tomorrow again and talk about it and move on.
Is there any lack of discipline as when the young team season's winding down? Could that be a factor as well?
In terms of what?
In terms of discipline on with the 200-foot game with the young team kind of freelancing a little bit.
I mean the turnovers?
Yeah, well, everything. Yeah.
I think the turnovers are, if that's what we're talking about, it's the one that hurt us today. Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm saying as the season's winding down, is it hard to keep them disciplined?
Well, I mean they're playing in NHL, right? They should want to be here, right? You're getting evaluated. We all are, right? So, is that the product you want, right? So that's something we have to ask ourselves, right? Individually and as a group.
On a positive side, I mean, the power play hadn't been going for the last 5 games, but you got one today. Did you see anything that went right with that?
Yeah, I mean, we had a little bit of shooter mentality, right? I thought we shot right off the face-off, had a tip that almost went in, and then recovered the puck and went at it again, right? So that's positive.
All right, that's Anders Sorensen. We're going to get to Mario Tirabassi on the other side of this break. This is CHGO Blackhawks powered by Bet365. And I'm here to tell you about one of my favorite places on earth. No, it's not the United Center. No, it's not the CHGO offices, even though they're up there. Sunnyside Cannabis Dispensary. It's your home for judgment-free cannabis shopping. So whether you're new to cannabis, whether you're an old pro to cannabis, they've got everything you need with a huge selection of high-quality products. They've got amazing brands. Go check them out. There's tons of locations in Chicago and Chicagoland, including Wrigleyville and River North, to the burbs like Champaign and South Beloit. If you're just getting started, they've got expert guidance and brands the Sunnyside folks know you'll love, like Good News and Mindy's, which coincidentally are my 2 favorites. Try the Counting Sheep. Oh, you'll catch some Z's, my friends. That stuff, if you have trouble sleeping like I have since I was, basically an infant, Counting Sheep from Good News is where it's at. We know you'll love Cresco and FloraCal's incredible quality as well. Visit sunnyside.shop for bright buys every day, including 50% off your first 3 online purchases. Did you hear me? 50% off your first 3 online purchases. Enter promo code HICHGO at checkout to qualify. Exclusions apply. Sunnyside Cannabis Dispensary, bright buys every day, only for 21 plus or Illinois MedCard holders. And if you're in the market for a new vehicle, get more power to yourself during Dodge Performance Days at Ray, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram. Now is your chance to score a great deal on your next vehicle. Head to Ray's CDJR on Route 12 today to choose from their huge inventory of new Chrysler, Dodges, Jeepses, and Ramses. And right now, lease the new 2024 Dodge Charger Daytona for only $259 a month, or get 0% financing for 72 months. Plus, shop over 125 vehicles priced under $1,000. With Ray's price promise, you can shop confidently with no add-ons or hidden fees ever. The price you see is the price you'll pay. Go check out our partner today to shop one of Chicago area's largest inventories. Find the right new vehicle for you, then drive home happy. The team at Ray CDJR is the only one we recommend. Don't miss out on Dodge Performance Days going on all month long for low lease and financing rates on the new 2024 Dodge Charger. For more info, visit Ray CDJR today on Route 12 in Fox Lake or online at raycdjr.com. They've been serving the community since 1963. Go get a Ram or a Charger at Ray. All right, let's go out to the United Center and welcome in Mario Tirabassi, who was in the locker room sharing the video of Sorensen and of Dickinson. And we heard someone in the post-game presser mention Alex Vlasic saying morale is low. I've failed to mention so far that tomorrow at 2:30, Alex Vlasic will be in that chair right there with us. So we'll ask him about that personally. So don't miss that. Set a reminder. Wednesday, 2:30, Alex Vlasic will be here with us. But clearly, Mario, vibes down today.
Today?
Specifically today, yes.
Yeah, I mean, when you have the road trip that they did, and then you come home and you get energized right off the drop of the opening face-off of the game, to come away with a 6-2 loss after the way that this game was going about halfway through the first period, I did not see that coming whatsoever. So I imagine these guys, again, the frustrations you see from Jason Dickinson, Alex Vlasic too was talking about after the game, the frustration levels, the being high and the morale levels being low, and just talking about how that they aren't progressing. They're doing one step forward, one step back all season, and they're not being able to take that next step. And it goes back to what Seth Jones said, as much as it ruffled feathers that he did say it publicly within his trade saga. He wasn't lying. This team is frustrating to watch because a lot of the same things have been happening all year. And Jason Dickinson saying the same thing after tonight's game that he said, I'm sure, or Nick Foligno said, or somebody definitely said a handful of games into the season, where they're not a skilled enough team to play fancy. They have to play a grinding, boring way to try and win games, but winning is better than losing, right? So we're at this was game 68. There's 13 left of the season, and I mean, we talk about this young team, the young players setting the table for next season, but I think that can still happen, but it's going to come with a lot of lesson learning from games like tonight, where the turnovers were bad, the defensive structure was bad. It was rough.
I was going to say, the last guy who said stuff like that got traded the next day, so maybe Dickinson's on his way out of town. Unfortunately, technically you still can trade a guy. You're just not eligible for the playoffs, I believe, is the rule, right? Can't you still make whatever? Vlasic didn't seem too thrilled, and it's one thing when it's the veteran guys, when it's your leadership, they're supposed to say stuff like that. Now you're starting to infiltrate that to the young guys, even though Vlasic is now, he's one of the vets among that group. But what exactly was his frustration after the game?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's that, he's one of the guys that is now stepping up because Seth Jones is gone. And I think he's taking a lot of that responsibility of, at least defensively, the being able to produce and also be, structured, be able to be, that two-way guy and a big minutes eater. And I still believe he'll grow into that. But I think, right now jumping into that role as like the number one guy, I think has been tough. And, he takes it upon himself to kind of be one of those leaders of the young group, like he's mentioned on our show before. And I think a lot of people see that in him. So I think that's really weighing on him, is trying to be that player. But, it's going to take time for him and for a lot of these young guys to develop into the players that they all want to be. And I think they want to be those guys right away. We all want them to be that right away, but it's going to take some time. And after, nights like tonight, it tests the patience. The cheers that we heard in the first period of, that like minute and a half long shift where it was the Bedard, Donato, Nazar line with Murphy and Del Mastro out there, and they just, you couldn't get the puck off their stick. They were winning board battles. They were getting shots on net. They were, just crisp passes. They were playing dangerously. Like, it was just like, man, like, that was awesome. They got a standing ovation once their shift was over. And by the end of the night, teams getting booed off the ice by the fans that stuck around to the end. Like, just a hot and cold kind of feelings throughout the night. And I think it's just feeds into that frustration of like what we've seen this team be able to be for short periods of time, but just never being able to extend it for, the majority of a game or long enough where you from start to finish can say that was a comfortable, like, well put together win.
Well, I mean, you mentioned the people who stuck around, and I don't know if you noticed this too, Greg. When we were leaving,
a lot of people.
I mean, I've never seen that many people leaving that quickly during a Hawks game.
There's always a few people that leave after the second period.
Yeah, they trade the kids.
Yeah,
game's over, kids.
Yeah, usually it's people with kids. I mean, you would have thought when we left at the end of the second period that it was the end of the game. Like, it was a steady stream of people leaving, and you can't blame them. That period was awful.
Yeah.
And you knew that they weren't coming back from that, not after that period.
Yeah, what makes you think they've got 4 goals in them at that point? It's not going to happen.
Yeah. No.
But, to your point, Mario, you're talking about, like, young guys making young mistakes, and I don't know how much I know you dialed in a little bit earlier, but probably didn't hear the whole context of the show. I think our frustration tonight, Greg and I, is the fact that, you've got a team that's going to make young mistakes, and it feels like the coaching staff isn't doing much to support them in terms of either calling a timeout when things are going insane. You give up 2 goals in 24 seconds to surrender the lead, maybe call a timeout. I'm not sure if we got clarity on whether or not that goal could have been challenged. Again, when we're at the game, we don't have the broadcast feed. And we did see Foligno. They were lined up for the face-off in the offensive zone. Foligno was not on that line, but he came on the ice to talk to the ref. And the ref told him something, and then Foligno left. So I don't know if it couldn't be reviewed or if he was asking for a penalty shot because there was a hand closed on the puck or whatever it might have been. But you and I talked about this last couple games, Mario, where the coaching staff doesn't seem to be putting out much of a fight for its players. And we wonder if that's starting to, when you talk about low morale, how big of an impact that has on these guys.
Yeah, I think it's partly the DNA of the head coach doesn't seem to be fiery. I don't think you get those vibes from a guy like Andrew Sorensen. And I think this is I don't want to get ahead of myself, but I feel like this might be a coaching staff that knows changes are coming, and you want them to do their job. It's the best of their abilities with the final games of the season. But, maybe this is a part of it is just, knowing that their run probably is done because a new head coach is going to come in. And likely that means, a new head coach that's going to bring along their own assistants or make their choices of who they want. So, I think that, just speculating, that could be a factor. That could be, we're all human. We've all been, at the end of our, classes in college or in high school or, whatever. And it's the last couple of days and you just kind of kick your feet up and say, what's done is done. And you just kind of just ride it out. But, I'd hate to say that is happening, but I think, if you look at how this team is kind of playing down the stretch here, I think there's some guys that might be having that mentality, whether it's veteran players or coaches, and it's tough to overcome that. So hopefully that they can shake that out of them, or at least the guys that are going to continue to put in that 100% effort through the final 13 games can can overshadow some of the players that may or may not be putting in that 100%.
I mean, you're right, and I think you're right. Something is difficult. School's wrapping up, whatever it might be. It is natural to let up. But for me, the difference is this is a team. And it's one thing for me to blow off the last couple weeks of my senior year, which I did. Actually, I blew off all the weeks of all my years. But anyway, when there's teammates that are also being impacted, that's frustrating. And I think it was Sorensen that said these guys have to play for each other. And that's true. You know, like, yeah, it's over. You're not going to win anything. You're probably going to finish with the second to worst record in the league. And that sucks. And it is a grind. Going through 82 games of getting your ass kicked most nights sucks. And it's understandable. But I feel like the three of us have been rejuvenated by Levshinov coming, Nazar's success. Like, all the positive signs that point to the future have kind of made the end of the season a little more bearable. We're probably going to get a look at maybe a Sam Renzel, maybe an Oliver Moore, Aiden Thompson, like those sort of guys as the year wraps up. So that's sort of what is keeping the season interesting, I think, both for us and for fans. Does it not rub off on the players at all? That's a little disturbing to me.
I mean, you'd hope, but you do see spurts of it. I mean, you definitely see in the locker room the young guys have taken over to a degree, and they're a little more boisterous. But to your point about the coaches and, like, you know, yeah, they have to know that they're not going to be here next year. I don't see how any of these guys, you know, excuse me, if they want to keep Sorensen within the organization, okay, you know, put him back down in Rockford or keep him in some sort of developmental role, that's fine. But if you know that, I mean, just like any player who's on a losing team at the end of his contract, you're going to want another coaching job. You're Derek Plant or Kevin Dean, you're going to want a job next year. So phoning it in behind the bench for the last 20 games of the years, I mean, I know with assistant coaches, it's who you know, not what you know more than anything else. But, I mean, it's not a good look. I'm sure players talk, and that gets around, too, about coaches they don't like. You know, that may or may not apply to the current coaching staff. But, you know, you would think those guys would have some pride in their jobs, too. You know, players got to play for each other. Well, maybe the coaches got to coach for each other so you can get a job next year.
That would be nice.
Yeah, that's part of it, too. I mean, I would say the most encouraging thing is that the young group does feel like it is coming together. We heard Frank Nazar today at Morning Skate talking about jumping into the scrum at the end of the game against Vancouver, and, you know, talking about, like, not wanting to leave guys hanging, not wanting to leave Reichel and Bedard out there without you know, any help. And look, Frank Nazar is not the biggest guy, but he's out there. He's going to go stand up for his teammates and do what he has to do. He was saying Colton Dock was the one telling him, like, hey, like, make sure you're jumping in there, because he was, you know, that scrum was happening back behind the goal, and Nazar was going towards the bench, and he realized what was happening, so he jumped in. You know, I think you're seeing signs of that, and I think that, like you said, Jay, that is the biggest positive you can take away from the, you know, back half of this season, and especially these final stretches of games, is what the young group is going to do. And I think it, as frustrating as it is to have, you know, veteran players making the mistakes, being part of the mistakes made that lead to games like this, that's frustrating. But I think, at least for me, like, I can let that roll, because I know that their development doesn't really matter. As much as we like Nick Foligno as a guy, as much as we like Jason Dickinson, it just doesn't feel like those are guys that are going to be here when the Blackhawks are going to matter again. But them setting the table, like, that is important. And I think that can go only so far. And I think we might be getting to a point where it has gone that far. And now it's time for, you know, some of the young guys to take that next step, both on and off the ice. And like you said, Greg, like, I feel like that group is starting to get more vocal. and they're starting to outnumber the veteran guys, and I think that can be a positive moving forward as you get the chemistry built and you get the culture built that we've wanted to see and hear and continue to grow over the last few years. I think it's starting to get there now, and going into next season, you can have some better feelings about like, okay, this is the next era, and it's like actually arriving now. We've been talking about it, but now it's actually going to be here.
I think that's why this summer is so important. You got these guys that are starting to build that leadership, and they're starting to come into their own, and that's great. And it's encouraging. And we talk about the roles that Foligno and Dickinson have had the last couple of years and how those roles might start to diminish. All that's great. Part of the problem is they need to go out this summer. And again, as I've said so many times, the coaching hire is so crucial.
Yeah.
But you also got to start bringing in some guys that have done it before. Like, yes, Nick Foligno and Jason Dickinson can say, we got to do it the right way. And Anders Sorensen can say, we got to do it the right way. How many Stanley Cup finals those guys played or coached in before?
Yeah.
How many playoff series have those guys won? Like, Nick Foligno was on the greatest regular season team that completely folded in the playoffs. Like, and then not a ton of playoff experience in Ottawa and Columbus. Like, we need guys in here that can come in and say, hey, it's November. Relax. Like, it's okay. This isn't the end of the world.
Right.
We need to, like, have this stuff, save this kind of energy for March and April and all that stuff. You got to get out there. You got to get guys who can command that respect just by what's on their resume.
Well, and AKZ laughs about Maroon being brought in. You want to talk about the veteran that has had the influence on this room?
He's the most respected guy in that locker room.
100%. It's Pat Maroon.
Right.
And yes, he's big and he's old and he's lumbering, but his impact in that locker room is undeniable. He has made a massive impact on this team. So, yeah, you might not like what he produces on the ice. The guy's at the end of his career. I don't know what you expected him to bring, but the reason they brought Pat Maroon in was for leadership, was to help young players learn how to be
Martinez
pros.
is another 3-time Stanley Cup winner, and he's been one of the most influential defensemen. Alex Vlasic has gotten under his wings. So, but those guys aren't going to be here
and
next
that's why
year.
you don't hear from them very often, because they know they're on one-year deals. They're not going to be put in front of the media all the time. They're not going to, well, they have letters on their sweaters now at the end of the year, but like Alec Martinez barely talks because he can't really talk long-term big picture about this team because he knows in a couple weeks he's not part of the team anymore. And same with Maroon, but they have done their jobs in terms of leading by example, teaching these young guys how to be pros. Look at Lucas Reichel. Alex Vlasic says that Martinez is his best friend on the team. Like, that stuff does matter. It does matter. It's not always about performance on the ice, but that matters too.
Right. So can we find a 3-time Stanley Cup winner that still produces on the ice?
That would be great.
Or I'll settle for a one-time.
Jonathan Daves.
I'd settle for a once played in a Stanley Cup conference final series guy with some talent.
All right. That's a good compromise.
I think you guys are talking about Patrick Kane.
All right. On that note, let's.
Again, the only reason I push against the Taves and Kane conversation is because it's not going to happen, and I'm not going to waste anyone's time talking about it. Would I be mad if it happened? No. Is it going to? No. So we can flap gums about it all summer if we want. It's not going to change anything. So anyway, all right, Mario, nuggets or tidbits before you go?
We hit everything. I think we covered it all. It's a frustrating loss. There's still, there's still some building blocks there for the team. That first period, watch that tape. That's the tape you want to emulate, and learn from your mistakes. And you got a tough test on Thursday with LA in town. and it's schedule's not making it easy at the end of the season here, but you got to find a way to get up for each of these final 13 games and make it worth your while. Make the best of it.
All right, we'll talk to you tomorrow at 2:30 with Alex Vlasic.
See you guys.
All right, thanks, Mario. That is Mario Tirabassi. Follow him on social media at Mario_Tirabassi.
A couple guys mentioned Sam Bennett as a guy.
Sounds great to me.
Love to do that. And I also wanted to mention, in that last bit there, that's why I think bringing in a Spencer Knight is such a key element. Not only is he, potentially your goalie of the future, but he comes from that environment. He comes from a Stanley Cup champion. He learned under Sergei Zawaski like that, and now he can take what he learned there and inject that into the young core, being one of the young core guys too. I think that's why that acquisition was so important.
Oh, and his demeanor too. I mean, he has leadership vibes written all over him, which is something you don't often see from a goalie. Goalies are kind of loners and they kind of do their own thing, and Knight is one of those too. Make no mistake, but just very thoughtful in his speaking and clearly engaged in being here. And I mean, the first thing he said is, I don't care if we're in first place or last place, we're going to go out there and try to win. Like, that is setting a tone from the day he walks in here. And, that's good. More of that. More guys that are going to be here long term that can lead this team into the future.
More of those guys are coming and will be here, and we're starting to see the foundation of that. But this summer, they have to treat this like an actual NHL team.
Yeah.
And make it better. I'm confident that, the way Kyle Davidson has talked about this summer, I'm confident he's got the money to do it. And if he can't do it in free agency, get
creative.
He's got the ammunition to pull off any trade he wants.
You would think.
He's got a ton of draft picks, ton of prospects, ton of young players. He can do it. He can make any trade he wants if he's aggressive enough. And I think he has to get there. I know we're still pretty early in the rebuild, 3 years in, but you have to start getting better at the NHL level, especially with everything that's happened with this Blackhawk team. You set the bar higher back at the end of last season.
You did it yourself.
Sure, you may get 3 or 4 more points this season, but that's not what you said.
No.
This type of in contention for the number 1 pick is not acceptable anymore. Apparently it is, because that's where we are.
That's exactly where you are.
So you need, and then you throw in the whole CHSN debacle, and that people can't watch this team still.
It's a factor.
It is. There is a serious disconnect between the ownership of this team, the front office of this team, and the fan base, because the fan base was told it was going to be better this year, and it's not.
Right. It actually feels worse.
It feels worse because on paper this team was better than last year's roster. So, and then you do the whole, TV thing. Just go get an antenna. It's fine. Download this app that crashes and it's 8 minutes behind. Like, people don't want to hear that. People will go out and buy antennas or give you the benefit of the doubt if you got 110 points right now.
Right. They'll find a way.
You don't even have half of that. Like, it's not good. So
no, I mean,
it's going to get to the point where, people are going to stop coming to games. It's been still pretty good. I mean, tonight's crowd wasn't great, but it's a matchup nobody cares about. It's a Tuesday night. This team's going nowhere, all that stuff. But eventually, you can't go back in time to where nobody cares about this team anymore.
When they're in danger of that.
You're closer to that
yes.
than being the Stanley Cup champion. Everybody has a Blackhawk jersey. You're much closer to the got to start paying the score again, the broadcaster games.
Look, man, the one thing Rocky Wirtz understood on day one was the best way to sell this product is let people see it. And I know there's excuses, and I know you can blame Xfinity, you can blame YouTube TV, you can do all that stuff, but the fact that they did not have the foresight to see the way RSNs were operating heading into this year is a massive mistake by the CHSN leadership, the Bulls leadership, and the Hawks leadership, and the Sox leadership. It is a massive, massive misjudgment by them. You could have asked me, and I could have told you YouTube and Comcast and Hulu, the three big ones, want nothing to do with regional sports. Nothing. And you've got Jamie Faulkner's husband works for the Cubs. He knows the Marquee situation. He's not directly involved with it, but he knows Marquee is about to leave Comcast or at least go to their top tier.
Right.
That's a huge problem. So maybe ideally, if NBC Sports Chicago didn't go away and everyone still had it and the fans weren't pissed about the business side and the hockey side, they could take their time a little more. But now, at the end of the day, Chicago Blackhawks Hockey Club is a business. And it is in a bad spot right now, not only because of the hockey, but because of all the stuff on the outside. So they need to find a way to get that interest back. And maybe, just maybe, you've got to accelerate the rebuild a little faster than ideal. But people are losing patience, man. This is Chicago.
Overpaying for Mitch Marner gets people interested.
Yeah, I think so.
Making him the highest paid player in the league. It's probably going to have to. That's probably what's going to take to get him here. Then you do it.
Yeah,
you do it.
And then he will be the next Seth Jones.
Fine.
Mark my words.
Not 100%. He's got one thing going for him that Seth didn't. He's a forward.
Yes. All right, let's get to these super chats before we wrap the show up. We got a couple we need to get to. Silver Cream, $2, says thanks for the show. Thank you, Silver Cream. And Tim Evans, who is well coiffed in his photo. Look at that beard. That's outstanding.
He uses silver cream in his beard.
He must. He says, embrace the glimpses as we go into next year. Appreciated the first period and Patty throwing punches. We will get better. And yeah, I think that's kind of why, this year sucks, but everyone should still be feeling good about where this team is headed.
Yeah. If this team finishes with 55 points, 58 points, which it probably will at this point, but you're seeing Artem Levshinov not look completely lost in his first NHL stint, actually looking good.
I expected him to look lost.
Yeah, he hasn't really,
Yeah.
If you're seeing, Frank Nazar really look like a dynamic NHL player, the goals will start coming. You're seeing Wyatt Kaiser make nice strides, and Ethan Del Mastro has been, pretty good. And you have, Landon Slaggert looking like, hey, that's a good fourth line NHL player right there. You're starting to see these things, and then there's more coming. You see the season that like Nick Lardis had.
Yeah.
He's still probably a year or two away, but you see that and you're like, wow, that could be fun. You see Sam Renzel, Big Ten
Defensive Player of the Year.
Defensive Player of the Year.
Named today.
Second straight Blackhawks prospect to win it. Artem Levshinov won it last year. You see what he was able to do this year. That is exciting. You got guys that may not be headline grabbers, but a guy like a Ryan Green is exactly what this team needs. A guy that plays between the dots and is that feisty kind of player.
And you got Poivert who does that too.
Yes,
and AJ Spellis, you almost made the team.
And what Merrick Vanacker is doing this year.
Yeah.
I mean, I know Nick Lardis is taking all the headlines away playing, but he's his teammate and he's been fantastic. Jack Pridham has been really good since he went. There's a lot of reasons to be excited, and I know the NHL product sucks, and it's sucked for 4 or 5 years now, and that's tough, and that wears on you. Trust me. We don't want to sit here and talk about shitty hockey for forever. We're tired of it.
Yes.
And ever since this show launched, it's been bad hockey, bad hockey, bad hockey.
It's our fault.
And maybe we should fight at the beginning of a post-game show, and maybe that will change things around.
Wake us up.
But
I support this.
Hey.
Oh, geez, Katie.
Man. I guess we're just not as fun as the Bulls guys.
I guess not.
But, we don't want to talk about the same crap every night. They don't want to play the same crap every night.
Right.
So there are starting to see the seeds are starting to blossom a little bit.
The mustard seeds?
The mustard seeds of John Mustard, future Hall of Famer, Jay's all-time favorite player. I cannot wait to get you the John Mustard jersey for your birthday.
The only mustard I will support.
So, yeah, it would be, it's on the way. And hopefully this summer, they accelerate that a little bit. You need some legit NHL dynamic players in here. You throw everything you have and more at Mitch Marner. If that doesn't work, you go for Nikolai Ehlers and or Brock Besser. I have no problem bringing both of those guys in.
Sure.
Or Sam Bennett. Or then none of that works. You can't get anybody here just by giving them money. Then you make a big trade. You find a guy who's the next Mikko Rantanen, who's a great player but probably won't re-sign for the team you're playing, Kirill Kaprizov, and you trade for him and then you sign him long term. Like,
I'm down with all of it.
You figure it out. You have to figure out a way to get this fan base legitimately excited.
Juiced.
Not excited because hockey's back. That's easy. You just have to show up on opening night. You have to get this fan base energized again. Spencer Knight did that for about 2 days.
It's here. They're waiting to be energized.
So get that guy that takes Connor Bedard to the next level so people can knock off this nonsense that, that he's a bust and he's not as good. Kid that's, 19 years old and almost a point per game in his career.
Right.
But get him a guy, a real guy.
Yes. Not
please. Not Teuvo Teravainen and or Tyler Bertuzzi, who, good for him, finally got a goal. Finally let a goal hit his ass.
2-point night.
Yeah, great.
But he was not one of our 4-star nominees.
No.
We had 2. I didn't even announce this because I didn't really feel like it. Our 2 candidates were Connor Murphy and who's the other one? I forget.
It was Tyler Bertuzzi, wasn't it?
Bertuzzi.
It was
was
Tyler
Bertuzzi?
Yeah.
Well, he didn't win. Connor Murphy won.
Yes.
The 4-star because I saw Katie making the graphic. And I want to say, by the way,
I think that guy that sits in front of us voted for him 12 times. Come on, Murphy.
Come on, Murphy. Control.
Get it out.
Connor Murphy has been a dog since the Seth Jones trade. That dude has been physical. He is defended well. He is shooting the puck when he gets the opportunity. This is a guy who is severely underloved by this fan base. And this sounds like a good offseason topic. But that guy, he's not the greatest. He's never going to win a Norris Trophy. But you want a guy like we're talking about who gives you everything he's got every time he plays. That's Connor Murphy. So, re-2-pecked to him. All right, we're going to wrap things up. We'll be back tomorrow. Remember, 2:30 with Alex Vlasic. Very much looking forward to that conversation. Alex is very, very open and honest about everything. We'll have some fun with him as well, but we got some serious stuff to talk about with Alex tomorrow. It'll be at 2:30 on the CHGO Blackhawks podcast, powered by Bet365.
We all silly like the mayor.